Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening, everyone. A man has been shot dead by police as dramatic scenes unfolded at a home near Hobart last night. A professional standards investigation is now underway to assess police actions after more than 10 shots were fired in the fatal exchange.
A road flooded with light from emergency vehicles. An eerie moment of calm as an officer's torch lights up a fence line. But just hours earlier, this was the scene of a dramatic chain of events ending in fatality. Police breaking the news late last night.
Earlier this evening, a 38-year-old man has died after being shot during an incident involving police.
Revealing more today of what unfolded here, police said they received a call around 8 p.m. A man acting aggressively, armed with a knife and refusing to leave the Brighton home where he was staying. Also investigating a small fire at the property. But as 3 officers drove in, the incident escalated. The man now in a car ramming their vehicle twice.
2 of the officers have then drawn and fired their firearms at the vehicle as it's approaching them. The male was struck by, we believe at this stage, 2 bullets.
In daylight, forensics scoured the site where police fired more than 10 shots in a tense situation. The man was hit in the shoulder and the head, and despite attempts to revive him, he died at the scene.
We all feel it, that part of the wider police family. This is something that we try and avoid at all costs, to having to be put into a situation where you have to take someone's life.
The police vehicle involved going into accident investigation this afternoon as Professional Standards looks over the incident and assesses the actions of the officers.
They know that there are risks associated with policing and they're entitled to protect themselves in dangerous situations, and nobody would expect any less than that.
It's a tragedy for the affected family and his friends, but it's also a tragedy for the police officers involved and their families as well that will have to live for this for the rest of their lives.
Police investigations continued here throughout the day with this busy section of road blocked off for several hours. Police have now urged anyone with information to come forward.
We would be interested in making sure that everyone that had some connection with the property, whether they saw it, heard it second-hand from people, are all spoken to. While
the 3 officers were uninjured, the tight-knit police force has offered its condolences to the man's family. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Relatives of deceased miner Cameron Goss say they are grateful and relieved now his body has been retrieved from the Henty gold mine. Rescue teams made the breakthrough at 3 o'clock this morning, providing some closure for his grieving family. Our reporter Tom Johnson has more.
There's relief at last for the family of Cameron Goss after an agonising month-long wait to retrieve his body. The 44-year-old was working on a loader deep underground in the Henty gold mine when the ground beneath him collapsed. What's followed is a recovery mission described as very complex by the mine's operator Pybar, one putting those involved under intense physical and mental strain. After a number of unsuccessful attempts, the loader was finally winched from its position early this morning, allowing rescue teams to retrieve Mr Goss's body. The outcome has brought some relief for the family. One relative posting to Facebook, "The most important thing to come out of a mine is the miner," adding poignantly, "Cameron, you definitely made us question some days whether you wanted to come home or not. I'm glad you made the right decision to come home." Another relative expressed great relief at the outcome while thanking those involved with the rescue. West Coast Mayor Phil Vickers says the healing process can now begin.
I think the enduring sort of ends and the normal processes of grief and healing and support will start.
Other parts of the mine are now back operating. Only yesterday, the mine's owner, Diversified Minerals, said it had a very solid plan for the future, which included exploration to find more gold reserves. Mayor Vickers says the tragedy won't deter workers from taking jobs on the West Coast.
The mining community right across Australia is a close-knit community. I can think back to the 70s and deaths in the mining industry were monthly. It's a reasonably very safe environment these days.
Investigations are still ongoing and a report will be prepared for the coroner.
Tasmania's motoring industry is coming to terms with the shock announcement the Holden brand will be scrapped in Australia. The RACT says it's fielding calls from concerned owners, while a local industry insider is predicting it could cause a hike in new car prices.
A symbol of Australian culture, the end of a legacy hitting hard within the industry.
To lose an iconic brand that's been selling vehicles in Australia for more than 70 years, it sends shockwaves not only through the industry but I think across the country, and I think a lot of people are still coming to terms with it.
For local Holden owners, the RACT says a key question is what happens to after-sales care.
We're fielding some calls from our members around what does that mean for them. However, at this point in time, we're saying it shouldn't really affect them, and it's business as usual.
Parent company General Motors is promising servicing and spare parts for at least 10 years. There's less certainty for dealerships though, including those in Burnie, Devonport, Hobart and Launceston.
There may be impact on local dealerships. We've been advised that Holden will be working with local dealers, but we as a government stand ready to be responsive to help any Tasmanian businesses that are impacted.
All are clearly disrespectful to the Australian people with those billions of dollars invested by the Australian taxpayer to be treated in such a shabby way, I think reflects very poorly on the overseas management.
Competing dealerships across the state are predicting a flow-on effect from the brand loss, including rising prices for new cars.
So there's a lot of car manufacturers importing, there's a lot of car dealers, probably too many of both. So it probably is the shake-up call that perhaps the industry needed. Hey, we can't continue to sell cars at these prices because we can't make any money.
An industry facing a bumpy road. Rebecca Main, 7 Tasmania News.
Shocking body cam vision has captured the moment a motorcyclist ignored police and recklessly sped through a fatal crash scene. Police have slammed the behaviour of the rider and are urging them to come forward.
The motorcyclist dangerously weaves through emergency vehicles and crews who try desperately to flag the rider down. They continue travelling right in the direction of police officers who are left with no choice but to quickly jump out of the way.
Senseless, dangerous and serious act like this has put emergency services' lives at significant risk.
The shocking body cam was captured on Thursday night on the Bass Highway at Sassafras at the scene of a horrid crash which claimed the life of a 54-year-old Devonport man. Paramedics were working to save the life of the other driver at the time.
The Westpac rescue helicopter was also landing at the scene, so it could have been catastrophic if the motorcycle had gone through the scene at that time.
Police believe the motorcyclist was travelling in excess of 130 kilometres per hour as they approached the roadblock before ignoring all signals from officers and speeding off into the crash scene. Tasmania Fire Service crews and paramedics have also condemned the actions.
The irony for us is, of course, is that eventually someone who rides a motorcycle like this, your numbers come up one day and you're going to need our help and you're going to be asking for it.
It's traumatic enough for our volunteers who were first on scene to be exposed to the type of incident they arrived at, and then for someone to be speeding through this incident really did impact further to their stress levels.
Officers encountered several other drivers who disobeyed directions at the roadblocks that night.
Stop! 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 Stop!
Police are urging the rider to hand themselves in.
Anybody has been able to capture the motorcycle in question on dashcam footage, I would certainly urge those people to come forward.
Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
Australia's icebreaker, the Aurora Australis, has been caught up in a political protest. A worker for the contractor P&O put up a banner and posted it to social media. She says she's since been instructed to take it down. In a statement, the Australian Antarctic Division says it advised the contractor of the post. P&O was contacted for comment. Emergency services were busy across Hobart this morning with 2 crashes within the space of an hour. Just after 9:30 they attended a 2-car crash on Churchill Avenue at Sandy Bay near a primary school. Then at around 10:15 a double-decker bus and a car were involved in a crash in the CBD. No serious injuries were reported from either incident. Tas Racing is introducing new welfare standards for greyhound and harness racing. At a time when the industry is under more scrutiny, the racing body says animal welfare must be a priority.
It's a sport with a rich history, but racing is feeling the pressure. The industry's animal welfare practices are under increasing scrutiny due to a number of national scandals. Local authorities say maintaining public trust is critical.
We need to set the rules, we need to set the expectations, and that needs to be in line with what the public expect.
Tas Racing today unveiling new policies for harness and greyhound racing. In what it says is an Australian first, trotters will be limited to 5 races every 30 days. And greyhound owners will have to go through a rigorous process to rehouse retired racers.
Stand the greyhound down for 28 days, effectively remove it from any sort of racing or training environment, so keep it away and get it in and out of cars, walk it on streets.
It's a real step forward from what I can see. Less work for the horses, sensible move, and of course the rehoming of greyhounds is a really important issue.
The RSPCA is also confident racing integrity officers will catch those flouting the law.
Now they've got the power to do some more for the animals, they will make sure that these laws aren't flouted.
We need to look after the animals, and the majority, and I mean the vast majority of people involved in this sport do exactly that.
Those in breach will face penalties already written into the state's racing rules. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The state's peak motoring body is reminding motorists to have their vehicles checked following a new Takata airbag recall. It's estimated around 4,000 registered vehicles in the state contain the faulty NAD5AT airbag fitted between 1996 and the year 2000. The RACT says they could potentially spread deadly shrapnel when deployed or under deflate.
Airbag recall, there isn't actually a fix for it, so the manufacturers are actually potentially buying back the vehicles and getting those vehicles off the road so that there is no future danger.
8 car brands involved in the recall, including Ford, BMW, Audi and Toyota. The state government is promising a health system shake-up will lead to more local decisions at Tasmanian hospitals. The reforms have the backing of the Australian Medical Association, but it wants to see more detail.
A shake-up in shaky times for Tasmania's health service. Sarah Courtney takes a scalpel to hospital bureaucracy. Kind of.
We are going to see the abolishment of the standalone THS executive.
Instead, new management roles will be created, promising to return local decision-making to hospitals. As for the savings,
there will be modest savings through this restructure.
The changes were flagged at last year's Access Solutions Summit, a mass meeting of the state's doctors and health leaders. It has the backing of one powerful group.
So it'll be up to the individual hospitals now to staff and recruit and service the patients in their localities as best they can. But it won't be decisions being dictated from a centralist regime above.
Meanwhile, Labor is accusing the government of raiding the coffers of government business enterprises. It's pointed to comments made by Hydro Tasmania last year. The government's dividend policy may be unsustainable. Hydro is also set to pay another special dividend of $70 million.
And yet he continues to go to them like an ATM. You know that there is a problem. This is an unprecedented statement from a GBE.
The government says Hydro is in a strong financial position and is in a good position to pay the dividend. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government is promising a health system shake-up will lead to more local decisions at Tasmanian hospitals. The reforms have the backing of the Australian Medical Association, but it wants to see more detail.
A shake-up in shaky times for Tasmania's health service. Sarah Courtney takes a scalpel to hospital bureaucracy. Kind of.
We are going to see the abolishment of the standalone THS executive.
Instead, new management roles will be created, promising to return local decision-making to hospitals. As for the savings,
there will be modest savings through this restructure.
The changes were flagged at last year's Access Solutions Summit, a mass meeting of the state's doctors and health leaders. It has the backing of one powerful group.
So it'll be up to the individual hospitals now to staff and recruit and service the patients in their localities as best they can. But it won't be decisions being dictated from a centralist regime above.
Meanwhile, Labor is accusing the government of raiding the coffers of government business enterprises. It's pointed to comments made by Hydro Tasmania last year. The government's dividend policy may be unsustainable. Hydro is also set to pay another special dividend of $70 million.
And yet he continues to go to them like an ATM. You know that there is a problem. This is an unprecedented statement from a GBE.
The government says Hydro is in a strong financial position and is in a good position to pay the dividend. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A special Lego table is being donated to a Tasmanian school, enabling children in wheelchairs to join in the fun. The purpose-built table has a new home at the Northern Support School in Ravenswood. The table had previously travelled the country as part of a government program, but will now be housed here permanently.
And I know that once the students see it, it arrived this morning, once the students see it, there's going to be a fight for who gets to use it first.
It's the first of 10 Lego tables being distributed to schools right across the state. There will be disruption for domestic travellers tomorrow, with Jetstar cancelling 48 flights as a result of industrial action. The airline is facing a revolt from airport workers over issues including rosters, work hours and pay. Only 4 Tasmanian flights, those between Hobart and Melbourne, are among those cancelled.
Well, 3 Tasmanians will pull on the All-Stars Guernsey in next week's State of Origin match. Gold Coast son Lockie Weller, Collingwood's Jeremy Howe and Richmond's Jack Rewalt will represent the state in the bushfire relief game. Teams were released today for the exhibition, which is on at Marvel Stadium on February 28. The last time Tasmania played State of Origin in its famous map Guernsey was in 1993 against a combined Queensland Northern Territory side in Hobart.
Good evening. Hobart reached 20 degrees today, 23 in Launceston. Burnie a high of 16 and Devonport reached 18. The state's top was 24 at Campania and Cressy. Grove 23 today, Ouse and the Friendly Beaches 22, St Helens and Flinders Island 20, 18 at Lowhead, King Island 17, while Smithton reached a top of 15. On the satellite today, cloud covering the state. Cloud and thunderstorms over WA. Showers and thunderstorms continue over parts of northern Australia due to a hot, humid, unstable air mass. Tomorrow, low will move into the Tasman Sea, a high moves into the Bight, and surface troughs and low dominate the mainland coastal areas. Coastal waters and south to southwesterly winds at 20 to 30 knots, reaching 35 knots about the east, swells up to 3 metres in the west and south. And there are a few warnings about a gale warning from Cape Portland to Wineglass Bay and from Sandy Cape to Stanley. A strong wind warning also from Low Rocky Point to Tasman Island. And finally, a flood watch for the North Esk and South Esk river basins. A look at the forecast now. Hobart and Bothwell, a shower or 2 and 17. A possible shower for Geeveston. In the north, Launceston, showers and wind 21. Showers forecast for Devonport 21 also. And Cressy, the wind easing with showers 20 the top. Burnie tomorrow, a shower 2 clearing. A fine day for Strawn 19. Curry, a possible early shower and 18. A shower forecast for the east 17 on the way for St Helens, Swansea and also Orford. The UV forecast very high once again. On to Thursday, and light showers about the southwest and southeast, increasing about the west and south later on. Friday, showers about the west and south, clearing in the afternoon, but otherwise a fine day. And on to Saturday, a mostly sunny day to start the weekend. Melbourne, showers easing tomorrow, looking at a top of 20 degrees. Sydney, sunny and 29. Brisbane, a possible storm, 34. And Perth, looking at 33 degrees. And right now it's a cloudy 17 in Hobart, the rain finally developing in Launceston 18 and Devonport sitting on 16 with showers. Merv, that's Tuesday's best guess.
Thanks very much, Laura. I need to ask you too, where can I get some eyebrows like that? People on social media telling me I need a decent set, among other things.